What's going on, guys? Welcome back to Watchtime as we're back for week 2 of 2021. A few fun things to talk about today. No giant big industry changes, but kind of things that are cool to us personally and individually. And then also there is a large industry topic that I think I've been keen to break down for a while and we're going to delve into, which is cloud gaming. And is it the future or is it not?
We're also going to be talking about David Dobrik's return to YouTube, Spotify getting into video podcasts. We're going to be touching on E3 and then breaking down cloud gaming with Elliot and developments in that space. But first of all, Elliot, how was your week?
It was good. I feel like it was pretty non-eventful. I kind of just getting back into streaming, back into video making, still totally out of Fortnite ideas like everyone. It's crazy. You look at all of us, Lockie, McCreamy. I mean, Lannon hasn't really been like a Fortnite YouTuber for a while. But everyone just went from posting daily videos all last year. And then in December, where people normally upload more than ever, people were down to a video every 2 days. Some people were doing daily. And
what
now
do you think's going to happen?
Now it's January, February. I think Lockie's posting 2 videos a week. I may be doing 3.
Yeah. You need a new game.
But there's none on the horizon. So who knows?
We'll
all retire.
My week was pretty good. I feel like I've actually had such a fun week. I feel like I've been on a million boat parties in the last week.
You have been on it's been 2 or 3, right?
Yeah.
Which for boat parties in a week is a lot of boat parties.
Yeah. I feel like I'm in this mindset though where I know that and especially because I was overseas for a number of months last year in much, much harder lockdowns than we're lucky to have in Australia. I think it's this mentality where it's because I know that so much of the world can't do a lot right now. I can't say no.
Guys, I'm just partying because I know that you can't. So I'm going to party for you. I know it is a sacrifice, but it is one that I'm willing to make. That is so weak. You just want to go on boat parties.
I'll take one for the team.
That's so weird. Other people can't party, so I feel obliged to party for them.
It's not that. It's at other times and opportunities in life where you might be I can do it again. I'll have those other opportunities come up. It's you never know. Australia could get hit by COVID really bad in a week, and then there might be no more boats for a year. And I'd say, wow, wish I made the most of it when I could.
Nah, we're too close to the vaccine now. We're all good.
Yeah, touch wood. The vaccine, I heard that they have vaccinated 90% of people over 75 in the UK now. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
That's quick.
I'm more surprised that 90% of people were willing to take it. I thought there'd be at least 20, 30% of anti-vaxxers.
True. I don't think anyone in Australia has been vaccinated yet, right?
No, I think we have had some.
Oh, I thought it wasn't coming till April or something.
I don't know. All I know is they're doing some emergency ones, I believe, on frontline health workers. And most importantly, hotel quarantine, because Australia keeps getting COVID under control. And then, because we're literally at 0 cases a day, and we have been at 0 cases a day the vast majority of the time. But whenever we have an outbreak that shuts everything down for 2 or 3 weeks, it's because we're still accepting Australians who are overseas back into the country. They bring COVID in. We put them in hotel quarantine, but occasionally one of the security guards sleeps with someone in the hotel.
That was one time.
That was the first outbreak that happened.
Time, Elliot.
Literally slept with one of the people in the hotel, led to the biggest outbreak. Hundreds of people died.
You don't want to be that guy. You just don't want to be that guy.
You don't want to be that guy.
Come on.
You just generally don't want to be the guy that killed a few hundred people, but you also don't want to be the guy that did it for that reason. But
I think they need to pay the people working in those hotels way more and just have them also live in the hotels for weeks on end.
I've said it should be like what they do at mining settlements where you have 2 weeks on or 2 months on, 2 months off.
Yeah.
But literally it's you get paid a bunch of extra money, but when you're here, you live in this little bubble and you don't go anywhere.
So many of the security guards working in the hotels are also working other jobs. And to me, I just can't believe we're taking that risk.
Whenever an outbreak happens, the cleaner at hotel quarantine was also working at 4 other non-quarantine hotels. Also, she made chicken at a Porto.
It's just
and you're just that doesn't
pay them literally 4 times the amount to actually stay there for a couple months. And that will still be cheaper than the cost of any potential COVID getting into the community and then them having to shut down the entire economy.
Anyway, guys, welcome to the YouTube industry podcast where we talk about YouTube YouTube and the gaming industry, which is really on topic right now.
We're trying to diversify and also get into the category of podcasts that talks about COVID every day.
and vaccine development. That's a new vertical for us.
Yeah. We're just diversifying. We told you 2021 was going to be a big year, and
we are Australian. We have all the secrets to getting COVID under control. Step 1, live on an island.
Okay. Into the first topic of today. David Dobrik is back, still not on the main channel, sadly.
On his second channel.
It's been 9 months since he's uploaded on the main channel, but still 3 months since the second channel, which is kind of crazy because I feel like everyone sees David as like the YouTuber GOAT. And he's literally just become a TikToker, which like good for him because the level
just
of
casually like dominated YouTube and then casually was like, I just can't really with it. But in this video, he says he's going to be back to doing weekly videos, which is
amazing.
Cool.
So he returned on the second channel with a house tour, which looks bloody insane. Have you seen the video?
It looks like a crazy house. Yeah.
This kid is just living. He's not even a kid. How old is he? Like 25?
No, he's a kid. He's like 22, 23, I'm pretty sure.
Actually nuts. Apparently it's a $25 million home.
As a 26-year-old, 22 is a kid, and I'm an adult.
Okay, all right. I always think it's really interesting to look at the way that David creates content. He is an absolute pro of the game, and I think it's always interesting, like his content strategy.
But also seems so effortless. Like, looks like he's really not putting in that much work.
Which is exactly what good YouTube content is and should look like. I thought it was really interesting. He returned with a non-skippable ad on his video. I think he's, needing to pay off the house.
I saw you were talking about that earlier. I actually was going to counteract that though. He put a copyright song at the end of the video, which probably means the video got claimed, which probably means it's actually the record company that's doing that.
Interesting.
Yeah, so I'm actually not going to, because I actually don't think that David cares about YouTube ad revenue. As like that, he makes too much from sponsorships.
He just bought a $25 million home.
Because of sponsorships. He posts 3-minute videos. If you care about YouTube ad revenue, you're not posting 3-minute videos.
That is true.
I literally think he got hit by a copyright from the copyright song he put at the end, and the record label was like, oh, cash money. Yeah. And they put the unskippable ad.
True. It was a sponsored video, which I feel like most of his videos are now sponsored. And I know we've spoken about this in a previous episode. I think he gets away with it every video now just because he does them so well.
He does. We talked about this last year. He does this every time. When he's doing a sponsorship, he talks like he's telling a funny joke. Guys, this video is sponsored by NordVPN. NordVPN are they're just the best. Like literally, it's like he's like breaking out in laughter as he says the sentences.
Yeah.
Nothing funny about it. Not a single joke in what he's saying, but it makes people be like, oh, this is like a funny thing. Like, this is like, we're happy about this.
There's some sort of psychology around that where
100%.
It's like you mirror the energy that someone's giving you. And I think if someone's giving you like super energetic, smiley faces, it's hard to like not feel a
Gives
positive
me that dopamine
affirmation
hit that everyone's on the internet looking for.
Literally. Yeah. I also thought it was really interesting the way that he comes back to YouTube with the promise of consistency and just the way that he is formulaic now in his approach with content. And I think it's interesting you say it feels effortless, but at the same time, there's so many elements of that video that are like classic David. It's like he gives away 2 cars in the video, which is crazy. He releases merch around the video. It's called like a welcome back merch set or whatever. People can buy hoodies around the fact that he's released a new video. Super jovial song at the end, which I feel like is classic him as well, that no one else seems to get away with. I still don't know how he does it.
He doesn't get away with it. They get copyright strikes.
What I thought was really interesting was the reveal of their new podcast room. He obviously has his podcast that he does called Views, which has been incredibly successful at this stage. I believe like hasn't been picked up by any major network. It's not like a Spotify
original. They haven't given him enough money.
Exactly. And I think it's really, really interesting to see that he's coming back with video podcasts, which is something that previously they've only ever done audio, or the video really hasn't been a focus point for them. They've now got an incredible studio. It looks amazing. And I think for me, this is him seeing down the line of where that can go. And I think it will be really, really interesting with some of the progressions that we're seeing in the podcasting world right now, where he takes Views over the next 12 months. Spotify is obviously making huge strides in that space to bring on more Spotify original shows, which means that it's content people can't find anywhere else to try and bring people onto the Spotify platform. I think that's like a huge area of growth for them because it's longer form content and it's stickier content. And while someone might be able to go on Spotify and just listen to a couple songs that might take 10 or 15 minutes, it's like if they are coming on for a podcast at 30 minutes or 45 minutes, Spotify is obviously able to serve them far more ads, far more recommended. And it's interesting as well that Spotify is getting into video now. It's not just going to be an audio platform. Did you know that?
Well, I mean, I knew that from when they signed over Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yeah.
Like they literally got him to take pretty much every episode off YouTube, and you can watch them all the same as before, but just now on Spotify. I think.
How do you feel about an audio platform getting into video? Like, why do you think they would be interested in that?
I mean, obviously because video ads would probably generate a lot more revenue than audio only ads, but I think also just trying to like diversify the service offering. You know, there are a lot of people that when they're watching a podcast, they like to see the visual of it.
Yeah.
So if they can make themselves like a one-stop home for everything podcast, then even better. I do think that it's going to be interesting to see if David is like, did he just build that studio to sell? Because I think that would actually make a lot of sense. Like, it's kind of like, okay, podcast platforms are more and more looking to acquire podcasts. On top of that, they're really looking to acquire podcasts that they can use as like testing grounds for their VOD format.
Mm-hmm.
So if he spends 200 grand building a studio and suddenly he's filming the podcast, all of a sudden, if his podcast might have gotten a $5, $10, $20 million signing bonus before, now that could be like double.
Yeah, I think podcasting is a genre of entertainment that's been kind of slept on. I don't think YouTube's done a great job creating an offering that works for podcasting. Obviously, a lot of people do upload podcasts onto YouTube, but I would love to see, similar to how they've done shorts or stories, like a shelf, like a podcast shelf on the homepage, which serves recommended podcasts to you. I'm actually really surprised that they haven't done that, because I think it's an area where YouTube could seriously dominate. Like, they have that ground.
I almost wonder if YouTube's kind of decided that that's just not going to be their realm, because they had YouTube. I mean, I think they're still doing it, but YouTube Music, you don't really hear a lot about it. Like, they're clearly not pushing it that aggressively. They've kind of made it and they're kind of like, oh, I mean, like, is this even worth us investing in? So I wonder if they've just kind of been like, look, like, that's not our battleground. Our battleground is going to be over here. But at the same time, though, you see them trying to like chase platforms like TikTok and copy what they're doing.
It surprises me, and I don't know. I'd love to get a bigger understanding on why they haven't, because I think that sweet spot of like 30 to 45 minute content, that's not somewhere where the big streaming platforms like Netflix or Hulu can play, but it is somewhere where I feel like YouTube was perfectly positioned. But I feel the same way about Apple Podcasts. I think Apple's completely slept on their podcasting business, and I think Spotify has like recognized that's something that they can come in and literally eat the market share. And I know that one of the podcasts they're experimenting with that video on demand is the Zane and Heath podcast, who are obviously good friends of David. So I'd be really, really interested to know the behind the scene conversations that are going on there for the future plans of Views. I can't imagine that they're going to keep it in its current form forever. I think they're probably going to bring it onto YouTube, try and show that it gets an absolutely massive audience. And then I wouldn't be surprised at all if they try to sell it. I mean, I think David's doing that better than anyone right now in terms of just diversifying his business and the content that he's doing, and that he's at a point where his name is still so relevant and so big, and he hasn't even uploaded a video on his main channel in 9 months.
Yeah.
But what's he done in the meantime? He's done huge merch drops. He's doing his pizza company. He's one of the biggest creators on TikTok. He's released a perfume. Like, he's still completely killing it.
And the video of his house tours at 500,000 views in less than an hour, which on a second channel that long after being away is kind of crazy.
Yeah. And mindful, that's not even the real-time views. Like,
yeah, true. It's probably well over 1 million.
When you're seeing a video that's been uploaded recently, like within the last couple hours, it's highly unlikely that the views that you see are the actual views. YouTube actually just can't keep up.
Yeah.
So the real-time views, which only the creator can see, are probably generally much, much higher.
And because of the monetization, it actually is like verifying the views are real, making sure they're not coming from bot farms.
Right.
But he didn't come back without any controversy.
Yeah. So tell me about this, because Elliot mentioned this when we were walking in today.
Yeah, so I only got told about it today as well. Apparently it happened 2 days ago, but I was chatting with a couple of people in the office. And Big Nick, who was the person who used to be in David Dobrik's vlogs, but he stopped. He used to be in the videos a lot up until about a year and a half ago, like a while ago.
Yeah.
Basically went on the H3H3 podcast and they were talking about being in the vlogs, why he stopped, what happened. And he was basically like, yeah, like I got bullied a lot, like really, really toxic environment. Like everyone has this real like elitist kind of mentality about them. And I kind of became a punching bag, and I got depression and was like suicidal for a period of time, and then decided I needed to step away, which was like pretty heavy.
Especially because I feel like David's reputation is so anti that.
Yeah.
He's like the good guy, you know? He's everyone's mate.
And I'm not saying this actually applies to David, because I actually don't think it does as much. But, you know, similar to Shane Dawson, where it was like, you know, the everyday guy, like, oh my God, I just stumbled into this crazy thing, but I'm still like one of the people. Oh my God, I just happen to live in this crazy house. But like, you know, still have, it's like, and then like all the stuff comes out about like, oh wow, okay, no, you actually were like horrible in quite a few instances.
Yeah.
Not that I'm saying that is what happened there. In fact, I actually more get the sense, I think it's very similar. I'm guessing that how that toxic environment would have developed literally could have happened in a very, very similar way to same with what happened with Logan Paul with the forest drama that happened. After a while, I just think you lose perspective and you forget. Like people very much fall into the routine of videos, which is, all right, we're filming like blah, blah, blah. Hey, you're small, like, let's like make a joke out of that. Or can we like do something there? And it's nothing personal. You're not deliberately being malicious. Your focus is only on, will this get a laugh in the video that we're making? Yes, it will. Therefore, good. Okay, we're going to do that. Is this something that will get more views, more engagement? Yes, okay. And I think I can very much imagine losing the understanding of the actual impact of your actions.
100%. I think I see this in a lot of different like little sub YouTube communities. I think it's a function of the fact of a few factors. I think YouTube is one of the most insular environments. And when you're around a group of people that also create YouTube content, it's extremely easy to just get sucked into thinking that is the whole world. And it's very difficult to get perspective, see the bigger picture of what you're doing. And it is an all-consuming industry. I mean, I think even to a lesser extent, I see that with a lot of the guys that we work with. It's very all-consuming. And I think that's because it's a job where you're constantly getting a report card. Every day you're seeing your viewership, you're seeing your subscriber number, you're seeing the engagement. And I think when you're getting into that kind of environment, it's just like constant feedback. It's like, that was funny. Do it again. Do it again. Do it a little bit more. See how far you can push it. See how far you can push it. Like how much more views can you get if you just like take that joke an extra notch?
Yeah.
And it's not like people are doing it maliciously. It's that they're getting these dopamine hits off the constant feedback that they're receiving. And so it's very rewarding to just go a little bit further, and then suddenly you're in a place that you never intended to start out with. I think that's a much, much bigger topic and one we could maybe do for another day as a deep dive. But I think, when you get into these YouTube groups, it's often difficult to see the surface.
Yeah, definitely. But that is the return of David Dobrik, which is very, very cool.
Did you see the news that E3 is not happening again for this year? I can't say I'm surprised.
Yeah. I mean, I know that started the whole conversation around like, is it going to move digital permanently?
E3, for context, is one of the biggest gaming events globally of the year. It's usually held in LA every June, and it's one that, I mean, we've gone to for years. You more than me. I think I've been to 3. You've probably been to like 5 or 6.
Yeah.
And I have to say I'm sad. Like it's an event where for us on a personal note, obviously there's the huge convention and a lot of brands go, and it's an opportunity to show new products, new games. For creators in the last few years, it's really been an opportunity where everyone's in LA at the same time for a week. And to be honest, it's like kind of ridiculous. It's like,
yeah, it's just parties and people, and it's
but
really, really
so
fun.
So fun.
No,
and,
I don't go to E3
excuse.
for the convention. I go to E3 for the people at the convention. But literally, I think the last 2 years that I've been to E3, I've spent, you probably spent 5 days there, and I think I spent a collective over 2 years combined 2 hours in the actual convention hall. The rest of it, you're just like, you're doing meetings. It's not that you're not working. You might be doing meetings, or you might be catching up with friends, or you might be going to a party. But whatever it is, it's not so much about the video games. It's about the community kind of coming together.
Yeah.
But I do think that this was always kind of like predetermined. No one, I think if you thought that E3 was going to happen this year, it was a little bit naive. Because look, yeah, sure, vaccine's starting to roll out, but you're not really going to get it in the majority of countries having vaccination up to a certain level until mid to late this year. So because of that, there's no way an international event that needs people flying cross country is going to be able to actually happen.
I think it's probably no secret that E3, the convention at least, doesn't make money. It's an absolute money drain for most of the brands.
For the brands. I was going to say for the organizers, I think it makes money.
Yeah, but I think for the brands to actually have a space in the convention center is hundreds of thousands of dollars for an industry event. Yeah, I don't know. I think, what do you think? Do you feel like this is the end of conventions as we've seen it? Do you think things like PAX in Australia will happen?
I don't. PAX Australia is interesting this year because that is late October, which could be within the realm of possibility, I feel like. But definitely, I not the end of live gaming events. I think that they're still like a super special thing. Because don't get me wrong, like everyone loves online stuff, but as much as gamers are often introverts and they want to stay inside and, you know, not go too far, I feel like also at the same time very sporadically extrovert. Vast majority
That's
of the
just
time.
because Elliot wants to go to Vegas for a weekend.
I just want to go to Vegas, goddammit. But as much as like I do like sitting inside playing games, if there's an event where I know everyone is going to be together and it's going to be an awesome time, like I'm always so excited for that. So I think the demand's definitely going to be there. Whether or not, I think it's a much bigger question of whether or not E3 can sustain itself at the level that it was, because effectively how that convention runs is it's all the developers in a big game hall showing off the games that they're going to have coming out over the next year or two. And the problem was E3 actually had this happen a few years ago where it built up, and then it completely just died. And they literally turned it into just a developer-only conference where it was like only media was invited, no public stuff at all, no big booths, no nothing.
Yeah.
Because it turns into an arms race because every developer wants to be the flashiest one on the floor. They want to be the one with all the people. So if 1 year you've got, World of Tanks as the booth next to you and they've got, their booth and they've got a real tank outside it.
Yeah.
Then next year, they're like, okay, we need to step it up because that other booth next to us, they did some cool stuff. So next year, they've got a tank outside their booth and now they've got a bunch of models in bikinis sitting on top of the tank. And they're like, okay, this will really draw people in. Then they're like, oh my God, the booth next to us had like a fortune teller. So now we need to up it again.
Yeah.
And then they're like, okay, now we're going to have open bar. So I literally remember going to the one for 2K and they had a mafia themed booth. They'd literally built an entire saloon bar in the middle of this freaking convention center. Inside was a fortune teller, a live band, and an open bar just handing out alcohol to everybody.
Yeah.
And you think about the cost of that. And don't get me wrong, I was talking to them, they're like, oh yeah, we might get like 5,000 people through in a day. You think about the cost of running that booth for a day.
Oh my God.
Is probably like 200 grand when you think of the rent. So effectively you're spending like $40-50 for every single person that even glances at your booth. So even if all those people go out and buy 2 of your games, you're still losing money. And there's a whole run-on effect and a bigger debate to have around it. But long story short, E3, whether an event that extravagant is sustainable in the long term, bigger question. Whether YouTubers should still get together to party every year, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I'm sad about it. I have the fondest memories of E3, and I think the first E3 I went to was a couple months after we started Click, and gaming, especially in Australia, can feel kind of small and a bit misunderstood. Like a lot of people, if I talk to, they really don't get it at all, what we do. Whereas I remember being in LA for the first E3 and we were there for this week and we were just doing meetings every day and running between places and going to the convention. And I don't know, I think it just completely opened my eyes to how big the industry was. And I going there and just seeing so many people get it and appreciate it and recognize what we were trying to do and not think that that was weird or niche or whatever. It was probably the first event that truly opened my eyes to what the industry is capable of. So it holds a sentimental spot in my heart.
Live events will be back, but not this year, next year.
All right, let's get into our deep dive topic of the day, which is cloud gaming. Now, this is prompted by a tweet that Elliot sent to me last night. So I think you need to quote it.
Yeah, I thought this was super, super funny. It's actually quite a long tweet, so I'll paraphrase it.
Okay.
But essentially, it was a tweet by the guy who created Terraria. Now, if you don't know what Terraria is, it's basically a 2D version of Minecraft, like a side scroller style. But it is incredibly popular. Like, it has generated hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars, and it is one of the most popular games to be released in the past decade. The creator of Terraria was tweeting at Google, basically saying, hey, for the last few months, for the last few weeks, I've been locked out of my Google account. I've lost access to the thousands of dollars worth of apps that I had on my phone. I've lost access to my Gmail account username, which is the Gmail I've had for like 10 or 15 years. And I've been in non-stop contact with your customer service, and they've just been sending me in circles, basically telling me that they don't care and they can't really help. And he was like, so Google, it looks like you want to burn the bridge with me, and that's okay because I've just told my development team to cancel the port of Terraria to Google Stadia.
He's taking Terraria off Google Stadia.
Because he couldn't get his email. I know 99% of people know, but just to give context,
yes.
Effectively, cloud gaming is a relatively new thing in the gaming industry, really come to the forefront more in the last 2 years. What it is effectively is obviously normally if you want to play a game, you have your console or your computer sitting next to a screen. The console powers the game. It's got the graphics card, all the RAM, everything you need to actually run something. And then that plugs into the TV and runs it. The way cloud gaming works is similar to how like cloud storage works these days. You don't have a hard drive on your desk. There is a big hard drive back in Google HQ with billions of terabytes of data on it, and you buy a space in that hard drive and then it transfers over the internet. So cloud gaming, they effectively have huge amounts of computing power running out of these hubs, and you pay a subscription or a fee, or different models exist, and it will effectively stream access to that game straight into your TV, kind of like watching Netflix. And because internet is so good these days and latency times are so low, a lot of the time, if you're playing a game on one of these programs, the latency is effectively as low as it would be if you're playing to a console almost. And the cost around is so low as well. It's incredibly low relative to having to fork out like $1,000, $2,000 to buy a good gaming rig. And because their hardware is so good, you can play pretty much every game you want at ultra settings. So Google Stadia is Google's version of this. There are a few different companies that are coming out with them. So there's NVIDIA and several others, all kind of doing their own service offerings, but all relatively similar. The concept of cloud gaming is kind of the same across the board.
Yeah.
And
a huge growth area.
And
for people interested in the gaming industry, the possibilities of cloud gaming is one of the areas they're most excited about. So to bring it back to the story, for this guy to take his game off Google Stadia is a big move.
It's a big move. Not quite as big, but to give an example, it would be like if Fortnite was like, hey, we're just not going to be on Xbox. It's similar to that idea. It's kind of be like this entire service you have, one of the biggest games that would probably exist on that service, where just, doesn't exist anymore. So I guarantee there is someone at Google right now on their hands and knees at his feet, holding up a box of flowers saying, here is your Google account and we've restored all your apps and we're so sorry for the inconvenience.
It's truly like the pettiest, but also most like big dick energy thing that he could do.
Biggest dick of energy. But yeah, like for him, that'll probably cost him, tens of millions of dollars.
I love it that he's like, on principle.
I've made $700 million. And there's certain things money can't buy. And you know what? Access to your apps and your Gmail. I mean, money should be able to buy that, but apparently it can't.
That is so funny. I just think that's hilarious.
But that was honestly, number one, to finish that topic, I think it's hilarious. I would be surprised if he didn't backtrack. I think there'll be enough community support trying to get him to put it on. And I think he'll probably get a groveling phone call from Google and they'll dip into the sunset happily ever after.
Let's stay tuned on that.
They'll probably add an extra 0 to the contract they were offering. And he'll be like, well, all right.
All right.
But an absolutely incredible example of someone who just doesn't give a and also a great segue into the broader topic of cloud gaming. And I've seen so many opinions. I think what's interesting about cloud gaming is a lot of the time things come out and people are like, oh, this is great. Like, this is cool. This is awesome. This is going to be the next big thing. And it's kind of universally agreed. But a lot of the time you also see things where people are like, oh, this is great. And then you've got the other half of the community being like, this is the dumbest thing ever. What are you doing? So I am super, super interested to see what happens with cloud gaming. And I've got my own opinions about it. But what's your top line thoughts on cloud gaming as a whole?
I do think it's an unavoidable development of the industry. And I think that the technology still has a way to go to kind of catch up to make it commercially viable to the extent that it probably will be in the future. But for me, I can see the mass appeal, and I can see gaming in some ways is limited without cloud. And if they're able to do it effectively, then I think that's going to be commercially extremely successful. What do you think?
I'm obsessed. I reckon it is so smart. I reckon it's the future. I reckon it is literally the coolest technological thing that is happening in gaming right now. I think that it is...
Damn, guys.
Yeah.
What a rave review. You heard it here first.
Well, like, it just makes so much sense to me. It has advantages in almost every single segment. Don't get me wrong. If you're a hardcore PC gamer who loves shooters and fast response times, and you need your, 2 millisecond refresh rate monitor, whatever.
The reality is, though, most people aren't.
No, most people aren't. Most people are people who want to sit on their couch. They want to play Sea of Thieves. They want to play Assassin's Creed. They want to play whatever they want to play. And I think that if you really look at the service offering of a service like Stadia, effectively what you're offering is, say I'm someone who loves playing games and I really like playing them at high quality. Mm-hmm. Want to be able to play everything in 2K, 60 FPS, 120 FPS, then for me, I'm going to have to fork out $4 or $5 grand for a computer, and then all this other tech, and then every time a game gets released, I'm dropping $80 on it. A lot of these services, the like game streaming services, similar to like Netflix, where it's like a lot of the time you'd be paying like $10 to $20 per movie that you want to get.
Yeah.
With Netflix, you pay $10 a month. That is similar to these streaming services where you can literally, you can just pay a monthly subscription. Some of them do it by game access, but a lot of them do it by subscription. And you get access to this ridiculous library of games, and you don't even need the hardware to run it, and you can play it at high quality. Imagine Google sells you this little stick you plug, and I don't think it's quite at this level yet, but I think it will be very soon. Literally sells you a little USB stick that you plug into the back of your TV, and it's like $50. Then you pay $10 a month, and you get access to every game in the world at high quality for free whenever you want. You don't even have to download the game because it's just live streaming the feed from their servers.
I think anything that's making gaming more accessible and cheaper is absolutely the way of the future, because I think you touched on, exactly that. Like, some of the big barriers to gaming right now is the cost. And, so many people that we see online are asking you guys all the time, like, how do I game like you? Like, what's your setup? Blah, blah, blah. There's some really, really high performing videos out there where people just want to see, like, what's the setup people are playing on? How can I get that too? The reality is it's just not that accessible for a lot of people. So, and I think that's part of the reason I was excited about like the investment that we made in Backbone, which is making mobile gaming much, much better and more accessible to the masses. And I think, at the end of the day, not everyone can have a $5,000 to $10,000 PC setup, but everyone will have access to the cloud and everyone will have access to phones, and that's going to make it. Yeah.
Someone handed me a hard drive the other day to put footage on. Mm-hmm. Like, gave me a hard drive to plug into my computer to put footage on. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What the fuck is it? No, don't. No, I'm fucking put it on the drive. I'll send you a link in like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Literally, 3 years ago, everything I was putting on a hard drive. I would literally put stuff on a hard drive and then take it over and hand it to someone and be like, there you go, there's the footage
Your
for the day.
editor would have to come to the house to pick up the hard drive to take it back to edit the
Why
videos.
would you? But these days, you're like, oh my, a hard drive? What are you talking about? No, if you want those photos, I'll just chuck them up on my Google Drive and then I'll flick you a link. Or if you need that footage, I'll put it on my Google Drive. I'll send you a link. A couple of years ago, people thought that was really dumb and weird. But internet is getting so fast and so efficient.
Yeah.
Cloud is just... It's so good.
And that's saying something, considering we're in Australia, where
we're
internet
in Australia.
is
We've got
not
the arse
good
end
or
of
fast.
the internet. And I'm impressed with where it is. So long story short, I think internet's getting better. I think that hardware is also, a lot of the time, you look at like high-end GPUs these days. I mean, I wouldn't say hardware is getting necessarily a lot more expensive, but it's also not getting cheaper.
No.
Consoles been at the same price point for years. PCs, high-end, have been at the same price point for years because we keep pushing it.
And that kind of tech is... Yeah,
and we keep pushing it. We keep pushing the technology up higher and higher ends. And you've got more and more demanding software to run. Like if you had a VR headset and you wanted to run a game, that takes like a really expensive computer to run a game properly. So if you can literally cut out the cost of these $4,000 or $5,000 computers, you can have effectively way cheaper abilities of playing the games because you're just paying a monthly subscription. I don't know. To me, I don't understand. And I would love to actually maybe get someone on one week where we have a debate.
How can we invest in cloud gaming?
Well, that was kind of what that was my angle with Backbone, when it was kind of like, do we want to invest in that? I saw that as an investment in cloud gaming, because not only does cloud gaming let you play games to a really high quality on your computer or your TV, you could do it on your mobile. You can literally just stream. Like, I could stream Assassin's Creed. I could stream Crisis, like the most high-demanding game of all time. That makes me feel better.
I'm like, how can we invest in cloud gaming, Elliot? It's like, we already are invested in cloud
Indirectly,
gaming.
because people who, if cloud gaming on mobile, I could play the most, I think this is like a good way that makes people go, oh, okay, I see why that's cool. I could play the most high-end, high-demanding game that would normally take a $6,000 PC like I have to run. I could run that on my crappy little phone.
Yeah.
Just because it's not the phone doing the work. The phone is just the screen.
Yeah.
So the fact that I could plug a controller into my phone and suddenly start playing Assassin's Creed, whatever.
Yeah.
That is cool to me. That is crazy. And I think that's why Backbone's really cool, because if cloud gaming takes off, then naturally people are going to be playing more high-end games on their phone. If they're playing high-end games on their phone, they need a controller to do it. And that's what Backbone is. And that was my logic.
Amazing.
I love cloud gaming. I'm sold. I'm invested.
All right. Let's get into our little section of the week. Questions of the week. Elliot, question for you. How do you manage your self-time and your work time? And how has that changed over the last 5 years?
I think it's just embracing the pros and the cons of YouTube. Like, naturally, YouTube is probably more work hours than a normal job. But the huge advantage is they're completely flexible. I can pretty much work when I want for whatever like length of time I want, and then take a break and then go back into it or whatever. So for example, yesterday I came to the office at 7 a.m. in the morning, started doing a stream at like 7:30, streamed up till like 11, had that like click meeting that we did click work for a couple of hours until like 1 or 2, and then recorded a video from like 2 till 4, took a little hour break, and then streamed from like 6 till 10. Like, so really I was like in the office doing work from like 7 a.m. till 10 p.m., which normally would be a crazy day. But because I did that, it means that if later on in the week I've got, like someone wants to invite me out for like a, like Mark and I were talking about going spearfishing on Friday maybe. So now I can be like, okay, no, but like I got a lot of my streaming out of the way and my video work out of the way earlier in the week. I got that advantage. I put in that extra, like 14, 15 hour day. And because I did that, I can now go and do that on Friday and feel like, no, I'm still being responsible.
You've gotten way better at that, though. I think a few years ago, there was no work-life balance.
Well, so I actually think that if I was in a position right now, like when Fortnite first came out, where it feels like a free-for-all on content, there's so much to do, you're building an audience really rapidly, I would say that I probably would struggle with that again. But I think right now with Fortnite, it's easier to relax because it doesn't feel like
sense of urgency.
Yeah, there's not that sense of urgency isn't there. It's not that you don't care, but it's just that, like missing one video as a trade-off for my mental health is not like really a hard decision for me to make anymore. I'm also in the position where I've kind of, not quote unquote made it, but I'm at a point now where I'm a lot more comfortable with where I am in life. I'm not like, oh my God, this is like once in a lifetime, and if I don't go hard now, then I'm gonna hate myself for the rest of my life. I'm at a point where I'm like, no, I went so hard for 3 years, and I still want to work hard, and if there's a good opportunity to really send it, I want to do it. But also, I'm like, okay, right now I'm in a bit of a thing where I can't quite figure out what I want to go super hard on in terms of YouTube. So I'm willing to, still do the work, but also if I want to go spearfishing, I'll go for a spearfish.
Nice.
So I'm a spear fisherman. All right. Your question submitted by the audience is, what is your best accomplishment aside from what you've done at Click?
Ooh, okay. Best accomplishment aside from what I've done at Click is probably just have a good sense of confidence in forging my own path with what I want to do with my career, I think. As some of you know, I think we've spoken about my history a little bit, but I was obviously going down a much more traditional path. I studied commerce and law at university and was working at a much more traditional firm. And I think in my late teens, early 20s, I felt a lot of pressure to follow that path, that it was like climb the corporate ladder and it doesn't really matter if you don't enjoy it or not, like stick it out for the long haul and do this much more traditional path that I felt would have a lot more external validation or people would understand what I was doing. And I think being able to develop a mindset now where I don't care so much about that traditional path has been a big development. Obviously, that's come through Click and having the confidence to do it and having the confidence that, we're doing a good job with Click. But I think, the immense pressure that I felt to fulfill this traditional path a few years ago was really, really big. And I remember I remember this weekend that we had down at the farm with everyone. I was like in tears because I just started this job at this accounting firm and I realized I actually wasn't sure if I even liked accounting or if I ever liked accounting, actually. And I think I was just doing it because it was the major that everyone told me to do that would open the most amount of doors.
What are you doing? Commerce law? Commerce law? Commerce law. Everyone does commerce law.
And I was like, holy crap, have I started myself down this path that I'm not going to be able to get off? And I think it was partially looking at you and seeing how much satisfaction and reward you got from doing this thing that you were actually passionate about. And I was worried that I wouldn't actually ever be able to fulfill my potential if I was on this path that I wasn't passionate about. Yeah, I think it's been an accomplishment to realize you can get off that path. Whatever you want to do, you can make it happen. Like, it's your life. You're responsible for your own happiness. And I think getting to a point with that mindset's been an achievement. All right. Does that wrap us up? Week 2, 2021. All right, guys, remember to, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the channel and leave us a comment down below telling us what you want to talk about next week. Leave us a review if you're listening on Apple Podcasts. It makes a massive difference for other people being able to find the content and follow us on Spotify. All right, we will see you guys next week. Bye-bye.